Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here, and a Merry Christmas to you all. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, I hope you're having a great day with your loved ones. And for those of you who don't, well, I hope you're having a good time too. And a special shout out as always to those who are working throughout the holiday period and are unable to be with your families. By now, I'm hoping I'll be stuffed with way too much Christmas dinner and carrying on my Christmas tradition of watching all the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies, extended editions of course. But today we are discussing the Primarch Roboute Guilliman's opinion of Gabriel Seth, Chapter Master of the Flesh Tearers. General spoiler warning to begin, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, the term primaris has become largely interchangeable with Space Marine. We're at a point now in the lore where there's little difference. The firstborn Marines have become largely extinct, with most of the Astartes out there now of Khul's new creation. Even established legendary names and figures have crossed the Rubicon, and it's just a matter of time before the rest receive their much awaited tabletop upgrades. However, there was a time over the past few years when the Primaris were truly different, as much in lore as without. And it certainly wasn't an easy introduction for Guilliman's new breed of warrior. Unleashed upon a galaxy desperate for salvation, the Primaris, along with the returned Primarch, became the saviours of the Imperium. Their numbers vital for staunching the flow of chaos, for marshalling the Indomitus Crusades, for reinforcing the beleaguered chapters. Yet as much as the existing Astartes needed that aid, as much as the Primaris averted chapters' outright destruction, there was more than a fair share of resistance, shall we say, to this new breed of warrior. This replacement. Because that in truth was what they were. It's a storyline now that unfortunately has largely dissipated, but in those earliest of days was very prevalent, very real, the firstborn's resistance to the Primaris. Of course it wasn't all. There were many who saw the Primaris for the salvation they indeed were, such as Chapter Master Dante of the Blood Angels, who placed within them his hope for a cure to the flaw, which we know wasn't ultimately to be. But there was a sizable amount of resistance too, animosity to the Primaris for several reasons. For some they were a blasphemy, a tampering with the Emperor's design, a heretical corruption of Mars. For some they were Guilliman's attempt to turn all the Astartes into Ultramarines, and as such not to be trusted. However, for many, it was the simple fact they were better, bigger, stronger, faster. A clear replacement, making them, the firstborn, the Emperor's original vision, obsolete. We've seen it play out in interesting ways over the years. The resistance of Logan Grimnar of the Space Wolves, wary of the intentions of the returned Legion Breaker Guilliman, feeling it his responsibility to uphold his own Primarch's legacy of independence. We've even seen Black Templar Crusades kill their own marshals for accepting the gift of Primaris, believing it the height of heresy. Yet undoubtedly for me, the biggest storyline of resistance, the figurehead of it all at the beginning, was Chapter Master Gabriel Seth of the Flesh Tearers. We spoke about this in the earliest days all those years ago, as it arose from a conversation in one of my absolute favourite novels of all time, The Devastation of Baal by Guy Haley. There, virtually every chapter of the Blood assembled within the Baal system to protect the ancient home of their Primarch. They would stand united against the overwhelming threat of Leviathan, the original Leviathan, and give everything they had in defiance. And that they did, but it very nearly wasn't enough. If you're a newer fan of the hobby and have never read Devastation of Baal, or just simply have never picked it up, do yourself a favour and read it, because it is an absolute classic. You don't even have to be a Blood Angels fan, because you will be by the end. And it's not even that much of a necessity to have read any other novels, such as the Dante novel beforehand. Yes, it'll help with the wider picture, but it's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination, as I actually read the Dante novel after myself. And here I am still saying Devastation of Baal is one of my all-time favourite reads. So definitely try and pick it up if you've never read it. Honestly, you won't regret it. But as I was saying, it very nearly wasn't enough, as Dante collapsed into darkness, having given the last of his energy to slay the Swarm Lord. It was the arrival of Roboute Guilliman and his Indomitus crusade that saved the Sons of Sanguinius from destruction. And in the aftermath of the battle, with Guilliman employing his vast resources to rebuild Baal and his brother's chapter lines, it was there we got our first glimpse of the resistance within Gabriel Seth's heart. His view of replacement rather than reinforcement. But the Flesh Tearers will be reborn. Guilliman is a living Primarch. He will save the Imperium. He brings more than reinforcement. The new warriors will save our bloodline. Where we are flawed, they are not. There is little if any sign of the flaw among the Primaris Space Marines. Corbulo tells me that where he failed, Belisarius Cawl has succeeded, eliminating the instability at source. Not one of them, in the long hard years of the Indomitus Crusade, has fallen to the Black Rage. When queried on the first, the majority are perplexed. They simply do not know of it. Corbulo is amazed. "That is salvation, is it?" said Seth. "I say otherwise. I say it is a deliberate action against our Lord's heritage, and the work of the Emperor himself." "How can you say that?" said Dante, appalled. "You are too noble to understand." Seth rounded on Dante. "That is not salvation. That is replacement. These new warriors bear the colours of Flesh Tearers, but without Sanguinius' fury, they will be Flesh Tearers in name only. All my time as Chapter Master, I have waged war on our rage. I wrestle it into submission and use its strength to slay our foes. We are fury. From the time of Amit, the Savage Lord, to this day, we have carried the white heat of Sanguinius' anger in us. That was our gift and our burden. The flaw is what makes us what we are." He clenched his fist in front of Dante's face. His voice dropped. "We are nothing without the struggle against it. He would make us all Ultramarines in red armour." Now it's clear here, Seth's resistance was equally against the intentions of Guilliman as much as this new breed of warrior. Seth and the Flesh Tearers of all the lines of Sanguinius have felt the lure of the rage beating within their hearts, have had the eternal contest to control it harder than any other. So it's understandable why he would feel it's so important to his identity, why he would feel it's so unconscionable to have it removed, and why Dante views it differently, as a curse to be cured. That was our gift and our burden. The flaw is what makes us what we are. We are nothing without the struggle against it. He would make us all Ultramarines in red armour. It was a fantastic premise, a fantastic underlying tension and storyline, that maybe Guilliman was seeking to essentially have Ultramarines across the board. And with Belisarius' call working to remove or limit the flaws, it's arguable that that was the case. However, as we know, Call deemed the Emperor intended the flaws or deviances within certain gene lines, and as such left them in place. However, here, Seth would even take it one step further, placing a logical conclusion to where Guilliman's actions could lead. Open your eyes, Dante. These unnumbered sons. They are legions in all but name. I have spoken with the newcomers. They are only too glad to tell me of the Avenging Son's plans. Wherever Guilliman goes, he leaves his men in place. Through the Codex, he gave the Adeptus Astartes their independence. He is more than willing to remove it from us. Soon, the chapters will be free in name only. And these new Space Marines, he has the gall to interfere with the work of the Emperor. If he is willing to do that, Seth fell silent suddenly. What are you suggesting? Said Dante quietly. Seth mulled his words over, even as his anger tried to force them out his mouth. He would not speak at Rage's behest, but decided to say them in calmness. They needed to be said. If he is regent, why not Emperor? What you suggest is treasonous. My words, or his actions. It's kind of ironic in a way, Seth's view of Guilliman mirroring what some feared of him within the days of the heresy. The very reason why L. Johnson went to Macragge. Guilliman's ambition. Drawing inevitable conclusions to his actions. But as Dante incredulously replies to Seth here, the mere suggestion is treasonous, the height of heresy, something easily punishable for even contemplating, let alone stating, something that you'd expect if the Ultramarines overheard, or perhaps even those higher up, something that could even find the Inquisition turning up over Cretacia. However, we know Guilliman not only did find out about Seth's comments here, or at least his viewpoint, but we also know what his reaction was to it. And this came from a small little quote within the Flesh Terror novel Wrath of the Lost by author Chris Forrester. Here, at the start of chapter 1, we're given a quote of Roboute Guilliman about Chapter Master Gabriel Seth. Seth shares the uncompromising honesty my brother valued in his forebear. Amit courted censure often, but never wavered in his loyalty and service. Seth can speak whatever truth lies in his heart. I know he will not stint in his service to the Emperor, nor will his chapter. So it's a very interesting reaction by Guilliman here. On the one hand, he acknowledges with that reference to Amit, it's a comment by Seth that in all likelihood does deserve censure. However, it's also that blunt honesty that Guilliman sees replicated through the line of the Flesh Terrors. And he can't help but compare that to how his brother Sanguinius valued it within Amit, the first ever Flesh Terror chapter master. And for me, this small little passage and reaction of Guilliman's is the perfect example of how he's changed since his reawakening within this new galaxy. Yes, Guilliman's always been a very human Primarch, a pretty accepting one, but he also was a bit of a stickler for the rules at times. If this kind of distrust or accusation was made during the Great Crusade years, for example, I could imagine his reaction would have been very different. But having suffered through the years of the heresy, having awoken now 10,000 years later, seeing what's transpired within the Imperium, what it has become, having the pressure of humanity's survival upon his shoulders, and being alone, without his brothers, it's all made Guilliman far more appreciative, far more retrospective, of what he had, of what he misses. And so in knowing Sanguinius valued that blunt honesty within Amit, Guilliman now values it within Seth, even when it's distrustful of him. Guilliman was there when the angel knowingly went to Terra to give his life for the Emperor. He knows the sons of Sanguinius will never turn, never fall, and so he knows whatever Gabriel Seth might do or say, that it comes from a place of complete and utter loyalty to the Emperor. And that, at the end of the day, is all that matters. And it's all that matters to Guilliman. The Ultramarine Codex was the first ever codex I had as a kid back in the days of 2nd edition. And so Guilliman was my first ever love as a Primarch. But the man we see now within this embattled Imperium, the man who bears those scars and burdens, is an even greater man because of it. He's a man who is willing to allow an outright refusal of the primaris by the Sons of Russ. Logan Grimnar spitting in the face of his own authority, even at the cost of a huge problem to his Indomitus plans, because he now has an even greater respect for what his brothers brought to the table, what they represented, and in truth an even more profound sense of loss for their brotherhood. This Guilliman within the Grim Dark understands and appreciates the differences the Primarchs brought to the table. For all the frustrations and irritations he and his brothers had with each other, because he can see what the Imperium lost with their disappearances, and he can see how their bloodlines have remained strong, how they have kept the Imperium alive for 10,000 years through their undaunted loyalty. The accusations of Seth at the time were well founded from his perspective, but the truth is Guilliman didn't seek to found Ultramarines across the board. He sought for all the bloodlines of his brothers to be represented equally, because he knows how much each of their traits, their talents, are needed. And that is why he accepted the comments of Gabriel Seth, because in a strange kind of way, Guilliman wanted the Flesh Terrors to still be alive to say it. But as always everyone, what do you think? What do you think of Guilliman's reaction to the criticisms of Gabriel Seth? Are you surprised he accepted the objections of Seth, and that he found out about them? Or like me, do you see it as the perfect example of the man the Primarch has become? The man who sees the value in his brother's bloodlines, all their bloodlines, and that it's evidence of the Primarch missing the presence of his brothers, the scars of what transpired during the heresy. And with Seth now accepting the Primaris, realising their rage and flaw remains, do you think his opinion of Guilliman will have changed? Or do you think he would still harbour a mistrust of the returned Lord Commander? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.